So maybe you can just kick off with a brief intro where we find our lovable rogues. Opening of season 6. It's a year on, I believe. What can fans expect coming in?
Can't really give much away, to be honest. There's lots of thrills and spills and belly aches, shall we say?
Yeah, we pick up where we left off with a certain storyline, which as Ryan has said is pretty dark stuff.
Yeah,
but dealt with humour, of course,
as ever.
Yeah, I'd say episode 1, it took me aback a little bit, and I was like, when we were doing it, I was like, are we sure? This is quite edgy. Feels quite, there's a big explosive beginning to the series, sort of took me aback a little bit because it feels a little bit darker than it's gone before. But that's what's fun, isn't it? You know, sort of like on the edge of like a little bit weird. And then in terms of like the series, my character is pining for his son, who he's found out about, and so that's this sort of humanizing element for him that's making him stop being a mad bastard and start thinking about settling down a little bit more in his life.
And obviously it's kind of a crowded market out there with TV shows. The fact that this has gone on to season 6, I think is very telling of how it's just really struck a chord with people. I mean, I don't know, it's, just we're in this sort of time of uncertainty and just kind of the humor and the heart of the show. But also maybe something about the fact you've got all this sort of gang of working class mates trying to be really tough. And then it just gives rise to all these hilarious situations and then actually real moments of tenderness as well between them all. So what do you think the secret is to its success?
Well, just all that and more. Just the humanity of it, and also the madcapness of it. And it's interesting now that we've gone on Netflix series 1 to 4. Now I'm going in places with my girlfriend and not getting mobbed, but my God, everybody wants me to call them a C word or the mama C word or the dad or the mate or her uncle. And it's a whole generation who are just on series 3 now, on series 4. Where do I get series 5? Where do I get 5? And it's just gone mad. There's a whole new lease of life in it. And it's nice to see all that fresh energy from the public. And I think all that's going to do is transfer on us, I hope, for the next one, because it's gone mad out there. I've noticed it so differently just since Netflix.
I don't think any of us thought it was going to get to Series 7. You never think anything's going to get to Series 7. You don't think that you'll live past Series 5 or anything. I don't, but then it's just kind of kept rolling on. And they've sort of worked out, haven't they, the formula at the core of it, like what really works. And so it's been able to kind of capitalize on that year after year, which most things sort of plateau a little bit, don't they? You've got a shelf life to things, then it starts to kind of feel a little bit rusty as a formula. Danny Brocklehurst, the man behind Fool Me Once, Netflix's biggest ever show. Unreal.
Yeah, and we've got Michelle Keegan, and she's also in that, which, that endures.
And I guess the fact that it's been going for such a long time, both for yourselves as actors, I think one of you had said in one of the other interviews that, Theresa May was Prime Minister when you first started. We've had the pandemic. So, your own lives have moved on. Also for your characters, you've gone from being boys to men, and even the crimes and what they're involved in, it's gone up a notch.
We weren't boys. We were just well preserved. But I mean, Steve was the most boyish one of us back then.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But they've had to start dyeing my beard. Where's Tomo? I mean, like, Series 1 ripped to shreds. I was like, what I would do. I tried now cutting the carbs and everything. There's no amount of carbs you can cut to get back to looking like how you did in 6 series ago. And do you know what? Right. No one tells you this as an actor. There is nothing more demoralizing than seeing you're slowly crumbling into dust over the course of fast forwarding through 6 series. Just seeing yourself like that fast forward of like a pear withering in a fruit bowl. Honestly, it's really saddening.
Just embrace it.
Well, you got no choice.
And what do you make of where, the characters are now, the types of crimes they're getting involved in? I mean, they're sort of getting in a bit over their head, some quite grisly deaths. It's not sort of the Robin Hood style that they're perhaps doing in the beginning, so how do you reflect on that?
How do we reflect on that? I think it affects them all a bit differently. You know, it doesn't. It's not water off a duck's back anymore for all of them. Do you know what I mean? Like the stuff that it accumulates, like this stuff, and then when you've like, you know, in previous series, like what was the name of the character whose head got smashed off by a lamppost or whatever it was? Tony Tillotson. You know, they have been involved in manslaughter before, but you know, straight away we're like, all right, back to the crow's nest, you know. And I think that stuff begins to catch up. I think the thing about Danny is that's so good is that he can flip from very serious to very funny and back again. I think especially like a microcosm of that is the scenes between Joe and Dominic West, you know, that they can, you know, he's at Doctor's and he's talking about his shit and Dominic's just being an absolute, or Dr. Chris, I should say, is being an absolute goofball. But yeah, I think that also like as actors, I guess, you know, like we've been together. We spent the entire pandemic together. We've seen each other more than we've seen our families over the past 6 years. Yeah. So there's like levels to the scenes, you know, like where you all like we all know each other so well. I think that lends like another level of reality to the whole thing because we are super close, you know.
There's this really weird thing that started happening with improv where it's almost like if you're improvising in a character for this long, your character has as much life between and much kind of back history between the rest of you. So we're doing these things where sometimes we're improvising and it's just so weird where it ends up going. And it's because that's the nature of real life, is like that you see one of your friends, you end up talking about something, there's a reference, something that happened between you 5 years ago, and then you're laughing about this little in-joke. It's like, sometimes we're making this stuff up. We were doing this song in one scene where we were all dancing around going very, very sexual, because it's based off a thing that Joe once said 5 years ago. And I was like, this doesn't make any fucking sense. Everyone's going to be like, what are you on about? And yeah, it kind of works, because you watch it and you go, they're real people.
And for this season, I guess without any spoilers, but did you have a favorite scene? Anything that was sort of the most ridiculous moment on set, or on the flip side, something that was most challenging or went wrong?
Well, for me, I personally enjoyed the Disco Biscuit rant because I love some of the rants that Danny writes, and I can't wait to get to grips with him sometime. And the thing about that rant is people say, how many outtakes were there? How many outtakes? And there wasn't any, because Ryan, you were there for that. Because what I do is I rehearse that at home. And I'd be doing that for hours at home, and every nuance and every word and every bit of anger and all that. And then the parody of the people in it, you know, bring down the government, smoking a joint. It's just pure good fun to go at as an actor, as a monologue piece on your own without anyone there. So when we did come to do it, I asked not for a rehearsal, if we could just go, only purely because I didn't know how long I could last it, if I could do 10 takes of it. So I was just like, can we go for it and give it all? And it works. It works. And that's one of the most scenes that gets quoted at me. If I don't hear 10 times a day, have you got any disco biscuits? And there's something wrong. And now, the Netflix thing, it's every day.
There was a scene in the one where me and Carol have our whatever happens in that episode, where I had this 6-page, which I'm not allowed to say. We had this 6-page scene where I find out what's happened, and we shot it for about 5 hours. And the scene starts, and he's fine, and then he finds out this piece of information, and then he's like, you go through like the whole grief process in like one scene for your relationship, and it gets quite heated, I'll say. I was knackered for about a week after that, because we just had to, because there was about 20 people in the scene, so you've got to do all the shots, picking everyone up, and we shoot with 1 or 2 cameras. I was really pleased actually when I saw a cut of it. Like I was like, okay, well, you know, I think that I achieved what I was trying to. But a lot of people say, like, what's the difference between TV and theatre? And at theatre, you do the whole thing cover to cover every night. But in TV, you do the same scene kind of once, but 25 times over a course of about 3 hours, or generally 2-3 hours, something like that. And then you never do it again. And then it's gone, until it comes out on TV, and you'll sort of forget about it. So you have these kind of when you look at your schedule, you're like, okay, that's a big one. Like in 2 weeks, I've got a big one there, and then there'll be a big one like in 3 weeks. And you have these things that you're sort of anxious about or looking forward to or whatever, and then you do them, and then they're gone. And it's such a strange thing, because it's so, but it's gone, and then it lasts, and then it will last forever, So I really enjoyed Cardi's arc this series. It was a gift. I'm very grateful to Danny for writing such a lovely, complicated story. Really,
I'll tell you what my favourite moment was. Right, so there was this bit where there's a lot of fox shit, right? And it needs to go all over the place. It needs to go everywhere. That's all I'm going to say. However, the man who came to deliver the fox shit, the real life man whose job it was, decided that doing this thing was the most important thing that had ever happened in the world. And so he was like, ladies and gentlemen, right, he went, ladies and gentlemen, there is about to be some faux feces which will emit from this canister. And if it gets in your eye, I can't help you. So you need to, it was just like the most incredible speech that he gave. It was like fucking Lord Nelson but it was about this, right? And then he gets everyone back 10 meters like this. And then he pumps this stuff up, and this generator starts going like this. And then in the scene, someone finally sprays this thing, and it just went, like a tiny little jizz of fake shit came out. And he was so embarrassed, but it was just a beautiful, lovely Brassic moment.
Golden, absolutely golden. But thank you so much for sharing that with me. Congrats on such an amazing show, and I can't wait for everyone else to get stuck into season 6. Thanks a lot.